Here's the reality of building wealth, the harsh reality, unfortunately. You're not going to become wealthy from a normie level simply just using speculation or simply using investing. And the reason for that is investing is a game of growing capital, right? Of generating returns, percentage returns. But if your current capital base isn't big enough, if it's small, if it's not just at least medium sized, then how can you really become wealthy? What's important is you have to start with a capital size that matters. And let's just think about this, right? Think about the following scenario. You've got maybe an emergency fund that you don't touch. That's maybe 2 months of expenses or so. And then you've got some kind of money laying around that you can invest, right? That you can speculate with. And let's say that kind of a capital base is 6 months. Okay, so you've got 2 months laying around, you don't touch. You've got another 6 months that you can speculate with, that you can invest with. Now, let's say you focus a lot of your attention on growing that. And you're that successful that you can even generate an alpha of 20%. Okay, so an alpha meaning an outperformance versus, say, the S&P 500 ETF. 20% alpha in a year. That's massive, right? Most people can't achieve this, but if you're very smart about this, if you research certain companies, or if you look very deeply into certain crypto projects and you really invest a lot of time in this, for small sums of money, you can potentially achieve this, right? If you put your head really down. So 20% on 6 months after 1 year. How much have you really made? A bit over a month. Right, a bit over a month. You are now, instead of at 6 months, you're now at 7.2 months after 1 year. Now that kind of a wealth increase you could have just achieved by getting an income raise of, say, 10%, right? You could have just simply switched jobs. You would have achieved the same in terms of monetary gain. Right? And that kind of monetary gain would even be sustainable, right? You switch the job once, now you've got a new salary level, and even if you job hop afterwards, that new salary level will be the new reference point, right? If you invest in 1 year, that outperformance might not come the next year again, right? You would have to again focus a lot of your research and time on getting those 20% alpha. So what really matters is you need to have enough capital first. And investing and speculating should not be the first step in the wealth building process. It can be a good step to simply just get familiar with the topic and to learn about this and to make this kind of a hobby, to get interested in it. There's obviously nothing wrong with this, but don't expect to really grow into astronomical heights of wealth with that. Even if you have, say, a moonshot investment, say you are very speculative, you bet on a crypto that 10x's, you probably will not put all your 6 months of savings into that 10x investment, right? You will try several 10x investments. Maybe you only put, say, 2 months, right? 1/3 of all what you own into that speculative 10x thing. Now, instead of 6 months, let's say the other 4 months of wealth didn't do anything. Now the 2 months turned into 20 months. You've got 24 months of wealth, 2 years. So you turned half a year of saving into 2 years of saving with a 10x investment that you made on 1/3 of your capital. So that's the problem, right? It's not really worth it at these kinds of levels. You can find other opportunities, getting a side hustle, jumping jobs, things like this that can make the same kind of impact on your wealth. And that's, I think, this is where the focus should at the beginning be. And this is where my focus at the beginning was as well. You need to get enough savings up in order to make this worthwhile. Now, how much savings is enough in order to make that switch, in order to try to leverage your capital and grow that? I think the minimum threshold should be 1.5 to 2 years of income. Now, think about this, right? 2 years of income. How long do you actually have to save in order to have 2 years of income by just selling time? it obviously depends on your savings rate, right? But most people don't have 50% of a savings rate. Let's say you save 30% of your money. Getting 2 years of income saved up takes 7 years. So I'm not saying you should keep all of this money that you saved up completely laying around and do nothing with it, right? But I would at least just passively invest it, not focus on generating alpha, put it in like an ETF and let it grow with the market, but don't try to focus all your attention on it. Once you've got those 2 years saved up, or maybe let's start with that step. So before we go into the investment stage, let's go into this first capital building stage, which can take 7 years. How do you achieve that? So you need to increase your monthly income. So for example, by improving your marketable skills, right? Skills that are demanded by the market, makes you more specialized on something, and maybe work for a company that's bigger, maybe work for a company in a very high income country, right? So if you work for a big company, say in Switzerland, you're likely going to earn much more than if you work for a startup in, say, Thailand, right? So you want to be in a high income country, in a sector that potentially pays a lot. So for me, it was tech, right? Go in a sector that pays a lot, go in a country that pays a lot, go to a company that's big enough to pay a lot. Thus, this is how you increase your income. Obviously, you need to have the skills that match all of this, right? Learning the skills is the first step, but then also doing the second steps of actually getting to the right place, to the right employer in this right geographical location matters a lot. Now, when you've got that set up, you also need to get the expenses under control, right? Otherwise, how can you have enough of a savings rate? And for that, I would try to target companies that are okay, that you at least partially within the year out of the country. And then you can live in cheap places. For example, I'm currently half of the year based in Malaysia. So, right, half of the year I've got way lower expenses than I would have in Hong Kong, where I am employed, right? I get Hong Kong salary, and half of the year I have Malaysia expenses. And this only works because I'm with a company that's very flexible with remote work, basically, right? So that's what you need to establish. And this is no magic, right? This is way easier than achieving 30, 40, 50% return on your investment, but it has way more impact on your wealth. So getting all of these things set up, it is effort. It doesn't come out of nothing. You have to put your heads down to achieve all of those things, to learn the skills and to get these jobs and to negotiate the locations, etc. But once you've done this, things are good, right? Then you set yourself up to, after a while, be able to invest. And if that's 30% of a savings rate, it takes 7 years. If it's 50% of a savings rate, you can already start focusing on investing after 4 years, right? It's still a multi-year journey though. So that's step number 1. Right? This is how you first get your initial capital base. Now, once you have that, then it makes sense to shift the focus somewhat to investing. Of course, not still completely focusing it, because investing in speculation still is very volatile income still. So that's also what you have to account for. Even though the income might be higher after a while than even your main job, it's still very volatile. And 1 year you might earn a lot, another year you might even lose some, right? Even if you have an alpha, that alpha might be smaller than the whole market dropping. So think about that. It's going up and down, up and down. You might outperform, but you're not outperforming consistently, so a regular income is very important. So let's say you're now at step 2 and you've got 2 years saved up. Now when you make 20% outperformance, you get 4 months, right? You've got 4 months of outperformance. You move now from 2 years of saved up to 2.4 years. Now 4 months saved up is already pretty good, right? That's equal to 1 year of saving 30%. So this is then where it starts moving. And this is also where you then can maybe bet, say, 2 or 3 months or 4 months of your saved up money into 110x moonshot and make this actually move something, right? When you've got 4 months of something that 10x's, you've got 40 months afterwards, 3.5 years of savings or of income. This is now something that matters. This is something you can't really achieve anymore by just selling time. So this is where the leverage of your capital actually matters. Once you are across the 2 years threshold, this is then where it matters. So what's the message of this whole video? The message is, don't put too much hope into this whole investing, speculating thing. Instead, focus first on building your initial capital. Do the very standard ways to save money. Maybe don't reduce your expenses too massively by also reducing your life standard, right? You don't want to reduce your living style too much, because that's the whole idea of building wealth, to increase your living standard. So don't do that. Instead, do it in a smart way. Live in cheap places. Build up your capital over time by especially increasing income. Increasing income is way more important than reducing expenses. And when that's done, then focus on investing. And only those people should really be putting their mental effort into all of this, in generating alpha. Because before that, right, you're just basically playing around, toying around, and having this more or less as a hobby. It doesn't really change much. Hope you enjoyed this video. If yes, please give this a like. It will help the algorithm. Feel free to subscribe in case you haven't yet, and see you on the next one. Bye-bye.